Have you ever wondered if spirits notice when we think of them? What if, somehow, they could sense our presence even when we're not around? Perhaps you've experienced moments when you felt a vivid memory of someone who passed away, or that feeling that a loved one was silently watching you as if they could sense your every thought. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now could transform the way you understand communication between the material and spiritual worlds. Emmanuel, a mentor spirit who worked side by side with Chico Xavier, brought profound messages about this invisible connection. Messages that span decades and continue to surprise people around the world. He reminds us that even if we cannot see spirits with our physical eyes, they have a subtle and powerful perception of us. Thoughts, sincere feelings, and intentions of love can cross the barrier of the physical plane and touch those who have passed on from this world, establishing a connection we often cannot even imagine. Imagine for a moment that your every thought could be felt by someone who is no longer with us. Have you ever experienced this? That moment when you suddenly remembered a loved one and felt a kind of presence, an energy that seemed to respond to your thought? This is just a glimpse of how the spiritual world interacts with ours. Emmanuel explains that spirits not only perceive when we think of them, but also capture the sincerity and purity of our feelings. It's not magic, nor superstition. It's a reality that Chico Xavier's psychography helped reveal, demonstrating that there is an invisible but very real channel of communication between the living and the disembodied. What you'll discover now may surprise you, as we explore how these messages apply to our daily lives, modern life, and the situations we face. It's fascinating to realize that the intentions we express through our thoughts carry a power that goes beyond the physical. Emmanuel invites us to reflect on the responsibility we have for our minds, our feelings, and the way we remember those who have passed. Every thought of affection, longing, or prayer has an effect that can transcend dimensions, offering comfort, love, and even guidance to those who no longer walk among us. Throughout this video, you'll better understand how this perception of spirits works and how we can approach those who have passed on in a conscious and respectful way. Perhaps you've felt something inexplicable, a presence or a response that doesn't come from the people around you, but from something greater, something Emmanuel calls spiritual attention. And believe me, we're not talking about empty theory. These are accounts, experiences, and psychographed messages that prove the existence of a silent but intense dialogue between the living and the disembodied. Stay with me as we delve into this universe together and reveal surprising details about the connection between our thoughts and the perception of spirits. It's a journey that sparks curiosity, emotion, and reflection, showing that, even invisible, spirits are attentive and respond to the energy we emit. Prepare to realize that every thought charged with love or longing can be more powerful than you ever imagined, and that Emmanuel, through his messages, guides us to understand this reality with clarity and sensitivity. Now, without giving all the answers yet, let's begin to unravel what really happens when we think about spirits, and how this connection can be felt in ways you may never have imagined. Have you ever wondered how spirits perceive our intentions and thoughts? Does that moment when we think fondly of someone who has passed on actually reach them in some way? What you're about to discover now may surprise you, because spiritual communication isn't something distant or abstract. It's alive, sensitive, and deeply connected to our most sincere feelings. Emmanuel, a mentor spirit who worked with Chico Xavier, always emphasized that spirits have a keen perception of human energies, and that our thoughts filled with kindness and love can indeed bring comfort and joy to those no longer in the physical plane. Stay with me until the end, because together we'll explore how this connection works and how it can manifest in our daily lives. Chico Xavier's psychography offers us surprising examples of how this communication works. Imagine a spirit observing our intentions, not materially, but perceiving the essence of our thoughts. Emmanuel reveals to us that when we remember someone with affection, even silently, we are sending a positive vibration that is perceived by these spirits. It's not just a memory. It's energy, pure intention. Many accounts psychographed by Chico Xavier show that spirits responded to memories and prayers with messages of comfort, guidance, or simply subtle signs of presence. These stories are moving because they reveal that our connection with the spiritual world is continuous and effective, and that every loving thought has real power. Have you ever felt that feeling that, when you think of a loved one who has passed away, something inside you changes as if receiving a silent answer? Emmanuel explains that this is no mere coincidence. Spirits capture the vibrations of our feelings and perceive the sincerity of our thoughts. This is why in many psychographed messages, we find spirits thanking us for our memories or offering advice in kind words, even without direct verbal communication. Every genuine thought we express is like a bridge that crosses the barrier between the physical and spiritual worlds. And Emmanuel guides us to understand that this bridge exists for goodness, for love, and for the elevation of both planes. Furthermore, Emmanuel reinforces that positive thoughts can bring benefits not only to ourselves, but also to those who have passed on. It's not just an exchange of energy. It's a form of respect, care, and ongoing love that transcends the limits of time and space. Chico Xavier's psychography is replete with accounts of spirits manifesting joy upon noticing the memory and affection of family and friends still alive, demonstrating that the attention we dedicate to our thoughts about them creates a true spiritual connection. Stay with me, because now we'll understand in more depth how these signs manifest and how we can recognize the presence and response of spirits in our own lives. Imagine being able to perceive, even subtly, when your affection or prayer reaches those who are no longer with us physically, creating a bond that transcends matter and connects us emotionally and spiritually with the afterlife. Have you ever stopped to think that your every thought can have a much greater impact than you imagine? That the energy you emit daily, even silently, influences not only your own life, but also the spiritual realm, touching those who are no longer with us. What you're about to discover may surprise you, because Emmanuel, the mentor spirit who worked with Chico Xavier, shows us that our thoughts, prayers, and good intentions have real power, capable of crossing the barrier between the physical and spiritual worlds. Stay with me until the end, because this discovery can transform the way you relate to your feelings, your memories, and those who have passed on. Imagine for a moment that every positive thought, every prayer, or loving memory you send to a loved one who has passed away creates a true bridge between the two worlds. Have you ever experienced that feeling of unexpected presence or comfort, as if a loved one were there, even when they weren't physically present? Emmanuel explains that this is no coincidence. It's the manifestation of an energy you emit that is perceived on the spiritual plane. Our sincere, good-hearted thoughts not only help us maintain inner peace, but can also offer comfort, guidance, and joy to those watching us from the other side. In today's world, where life moves faster and faster, and we often feel disconnected from ourselves and others, these messages from Emmanuel take on even greater importance. They remind us that the attention we pay to the thoughts and energy we emanate makes a difference. When we think lovingly of someone who has passed away, when we offer a prayer or send good intentions, we are participating in a silent and affectionate dialogue, an exchange of feelings that transcends space and time. It's as if each loving memory is perceived on the spiritual plane, creating a deep and real connection. This understanding also teaches us something valuable about emotional and spiritual responsibility. We don't always realize it, but our energy and attention can influence not only our own lives, but also the lives of those who have passed on. Emmanuel invites us to reflect on the importance of cultivating positive thoughts and pure intentions, remembering that small actions of the heart can generate effects that go far beyond what we can see or measure. The practice of maintaining thoughts of love, gratitude, and respect is not just an emotional experience. It is a way of contributing to harmony between the worlds, demonstrating that every gesture of sincere attention has meaning and purpose. Have you ever felt that emotion when remembering a loved one who has passed away? Realizing, even if subtly, that something responded to your memory? This often silent perception is a sign that we are connected in ways that transcend matter. Emmanuel, through his psychographed messages, helps us see that this connection is not merely symbolic. It is a living reality manifested through the energy we emit, the intention with which we think, and the sincerity of our memories. Stay with me, because now we'll explore in even more detail how this energy manifests in our daily lives, showing practical examples and experiences that reveal how our positive thoughts can generate surprising effects in the spiritual world. Prepare to understand concretely that every thought, prayer, and intention of love is much more powerful than you imagine. Have you ever stopped to imagine the power your every thought can have on the spiritual world? That every loving memory, every pure and sincere intention you send to someone who has passed away can be perceived and felt by these spirits in a real and meaningful way. What you're about to discover now can transform the way you connect with those who are no longer physically by your side. Stay with me until the end, because we'll delve into a deep reflection on how our thoughts and feelings have a much greater impact than we imagine, and how this can generate true communion between the material world and the spiritual world. Emmanuel, a mentor spirit who worked with Chico Xavier, reminds us that spirits perceive when we are remembered with affection and respect. They feel the energy of our intentions, the purity of our thoughts, and the sincerity of our memories. It's not just about imagining or missing someone. It's about recognizing that every positive thought and every gesture of love we emit has a real effect, as if they were waves crossing the invisible barrier between worlds, reaching those watching us from the other side. Have you ever experienced that moment when, thinking intensely about a loved one who has passed, you felt a kind of inexplicable presence or comfort? This is the manifestation of the spiritual connection Emmanuel speaks of, a silent dialogue that takes place through the heart and mind. Today's fast-paced, distraction-filled world often makes us forget the importance of our energies and intentions. However, Emmanuel's message is clear. Our thoughts not only transform us, but can also touch and influence the lives of those who are no longer physically with us. Every loving thought, every silent prayer, and every loving memory acts as a powerful instrument of communion and affection, capable of crossing dimensions and creating bonds that not even time or distance can break. Stay with me, because the reflection we will develop now will show how the conscious practice of positive thoughts and feelings of respect and love can generate profound and unexpected impacts. What? If your every thought could touch someone who has passed, what difference could you make in the lives of these spirits, and even in your own, by cultivating pure and loving intentions? Emmanuel invites us to realize that spiritual connection is not something distant or inaccessible. It happens constantly, often in subtle but real ways. When we remember someone with affection and respect, we are not only honoring their memory, but also establishing an exchange of feelings that transcends matter, a silent channel of communication and energy that strengthens bonds and offers comfort to both ourselves and those who accompany us on the other side. The power of thought and intention is, therefore, far greater than we can perceive in everyday life. Every genuine emotion, every loving memory, every gesture of respect and affection becomes a bridge between worlds, an invisible but living link that demonstrates that love knows no bounds. Have you ever felt this presence, even if only subtly, and noticed that it responded to your thoughts? This is evidence that our spirits are connected, and that every act of remembrance and love creates real effects on the spiritual plane. Stay with me, because the next step will reveal how to recognize these subtle responses and how we can, in a practical and conscious way, keep this connection alive, transforming our relationship with spirits into an experience of learning, comfort, and true communion. And as we reflect on the power of our thoughts and intentions, it's interesting to consider that every experience, every feeling you have when remembering a loved one or sending positive thoughts, can be shared and multiplied. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what touched you most, or any experience you've had related to spiritual perception. Knowing what you feel and how you see these connections makes this exchange even more real and intimate. It helps others realize they are not alone in this universe of feelings and memories that transcend the material. world, and if you're enjoying this content and felt it brought some light or understanding to your heart, be sure to like the video. Each like helps the message reach more people who are also seeking answers, comfort, and reflection on spiritual life. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and allows us to continue producing videos that explore these deep and sensitive connections between the physical and spiritual worlds. Furthermore, subscribing to the channel is a way to show that you want to continue following these topics, reflections, and messages from Emmanuel, which help us better understand the spiritual dimension and the impact of our thoughts. By subscribing, you not only ensure you'll receive new content, but also strengthen this community of people interested in learning, reflecting, and sharing experiences, making our space more welcoming and filled with positive energy. So, as we continue to delve into this universe and explore how our thoughts can touch the spiritual world in surprising ways, take the opportunity to actively participate by commenting, liking, and subscribing. Because every gesture of yours helps more people discover that this invisible connection is real, present, and full of meaning. And as we continue to reflect on the power of our thoughts and intentions, it's important to realize that your experiences and feelings can also become part of this exchange. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what touched you most, or share a time when you felt the presence or influence of someone who has passed away. Knowing how you perceive these connections not only enriches our conversation, but also helps others feel they are not alone on this journey of spiritual understanding. If you feel this content touches your heart, please like the video. Each like is like a bridge that allows more people to access these messages and reflections, amplifying the positive energy we want to share. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and allows us to continue producing videos that sensitively and profoundly explore the relationship between the material and spiritual worlds. And subscribing to the channel is more than just a click. It's a way to show that you want to continue exploring these topics, receive new messages from Emmanuel, and be part of a community that values reflection, love, and connection with the spiritual world. By subscribing, you help keep this chain of learning, acceptance, and hope alive, ensuring that more people can discover the importance of their thoughts and intentions. As we continue to delve into this universe of perceptions and feelings that transcend matter, take the opportunity to comment, like, and subscribe, because each gesture of yours strengthens this community and helps the message reach those who need to feel that the spiritual world is closer and more accessible than we often imagine. Have you ever wondered if spirits truly perceive us when we think of them? What if somehow our memories, our emotions, our loving thoughts could cross the invisible barrier that separates the physical from the spiritual world? It may seem distant, abstract, or even hard to believe, but Emmanuel, a mentor spirit who worked alongside Chico Xavier, reveals to us that there is a connection much deeper than we imagine, a subtle perception that transcends time, space, and matter. He explains that it's not just longing or memories that arise in our minds. It's a true exchange of energy, a silent dialogue that happens through intention and the purity of our feelings. Stay with me, because this reflection can transform the way you view your own memories, your emotions, and the way you connect with those who have passed. When we think of someone with affection, without expecting anything in return, we are emitting a frequency, an energy that is not lost in the void. Emmanuel teaches us that spirits perceive this vibration clearly, as if they were able to grasp the deeper meaning of what we feel. It's as if each sincere thought acts like an invisible thread, connecting our world to theirs, allowing the spiritual presence to manifest in delicate and often unexpected ways. Have you ever experienced that feeling when, upon remembering a loved one who has passed, you felt a silent presence or comfort, almost as if your own soul gave a nod of recognition? This perception is not merely emotional. It is proof that our mental energy has an impact, that our loving intentions can traverse dimensions and touch lives that are no longer physical, but still deeply real. And it's not just about feeling or perceiving. Emmanuel shows us that this connection has a transformative effect, both for the sender and the receiver. It's an interaction that involves sensitivity, respect, and, above all, awareness. Our thoughts have power, and their power goes far beyond what we perceive in our daily routine. Every loving memory, every positive thought, or silent prayer acts like a seed that germinates in the invisible realm of the spiritual plane. It is in this space, almost like the backstage of a parallel reality, that the hidden truth is revealed. We are not isolated, and our intentions are instruments of communion and real impact. As throughout life, many people feel this presence in different ways. For some, it's a warmth in the chest, a sense of security. For others, subtle signs in everyday life that can only be understood if we look beyond the surface. Emmanuel teaches us that, even without realizing it, every thought we carry can influence not only our own emotions, but also the experience of those who have passed away. There is a silent reciprocity, an exchange of feelings that doesn't depend on words, physical gestures, or human recognition. It is the manifestation of a mindset of love and connection that transcends physical barriers, a type of communication that operates behind the scenes of what we call reality. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because it's fascinating to see how this awareness of the energy of thoughts leads us to reflect on decisions, habits, and intentions that often go unnoticed. When you choose to think kindly, send positive thoughts, or simply maintain a loving memory of someone who has passed, you are making decisions that have a real impact on another dimension. Emmanuel reinforces that the quality of these intentions matters as much as the frequency of the thoughts. It's not just about remembering, but about the sincerity, purity, and attention we place on each thought. This is where we realize that our inner life, our most intimate feelings, and even our doubts have a much greater impact than we imagine. Every emotion filled with affection, every silent gesture of love, every inner reflection on someone who has passed is like an invisible bridge that strengthens the connection between us and the spiritual world. And this realization leads us to an even deeper reflection. If our thoughts carry such power and can generate effects beyond the visible, how can we cultivate a consciousness that transforms these intentions into positive experiences, not only for ourselves but also for those who have already left the physical plane? Emmanuel encourages us to realize that every memory, every silent prayer, and every loving thought has unique value. It's not about ritual or formality. It's about recognizing the spiritual presence, respecting the energy that circulates between worlds, and understanding that our lives are intertwined with these dimensions in ways that often go unnoticed. Throughout this journey, we begin to notice subtle details that indicate the presence of those who have passed, an inexplicable sensation, a sudden comfort, signs that seem random but actually reveal a spiritual synchronicity, a silent response to the thoughts being emitted. It's an invisible dance between intention and perception, energy and consciousness, remembrance and response. Emmanuel teaches us that this relationship is dynamic and profound, and that the simple act of remembering with affection or respect already produces effects that go far beyond what we can measure. By understanding this reality, we begin to realize that our life is not merely a sequence of physical and material events. There is a layer of meaning, hidden truth that influences our journey and depends on our awareness and the quality of our thoughts. Every sincere intention is an act of love and an instrument of transformation. It's capable of generating a real impact on the spiritual world and, consequently, on our own life experience. This realization changes the way we deal with our emotions, our memories, and our decisions. As we understand that there are always broader and deeper repercussions than what we can see or touch. Now that we're beginning to see this, its dimension, and recognize that our thoughts have true power, it's possible to delve into even more fascinating details about how this perception of spirits works, how it manifests in everyday life, and how we can tune our energy to make our intentions even more powerful and conscious. We can see that life reveals itself in layers, in invisible connections that shape our journey in ways that often escape immediate comprehension, but are perceived by those observing us from the other side. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. Have you ever stopped to reflect on how our thoughts can cross dimensions and become felt by those no longer physically among us? It seems distant, almost impossible to comprehend, but Emmanuel, a mentor spirit who worked alongside Chico Xavier, reveals that there is a silent and powerful communication between the living and the disembodied, a channel established through the energy of our intentions. Every pure thought, every sincere memory, every emotion filled with affection or gratitude acts as a vibration that travels through space, touching those who have passed, and often bringing responses in subtle but very real ways. This perception is not theoretical or abstract. It manifests itself in everyday life, in delicate, invisible, yet meaningful ways. Showing that spiritual life is closer than we imagine, Emmanuel teaches us that spirits possess a special sensitivity to capture the essence of our intentions. It's not just about remembering someone, but about feeling sincerely, about infusing love and respect into our thoughts. And it's incredible to realize that, in Chico Xavier's psychography, there are accounts that concretely prove this interaction. Many messages received by Emmanuel describe situations in which spirits responded to the memories of the living, transmitting comfort, joy, or guidance. These are small, seemingly simple stories, but they carry a powerful hidden truth. Our thoughts have an impact. Our intentions carry energy. And this energy is perceived by those who no longer have a physical body but remain attentive and connected to our reality. Imagine a person sitting in silence, fondly remembering a loved one who has passed away. They don't say a formal prayer, they don't say a word out loud, but the feeling of love is genuine and intense. According to Emmanuel, this remembrance is already a form of communication. Spirits perceive the sincerity of the heart, the purity of thought, and can feel comfort and joy from this attention. It's as if each sincere memory were a seed that germinates in the spiritual realm, creating effects that we often only perceive intuitively, through sensations, signs, or meaningful coincidences. Have you ever experienced something similar, when you felt a silent presence respond to your thought or memory? This perception is proof that the energy of thoughts is real, and that spiritual communication is more concrete than many imagine. Emmanuel also emphasizes that the quality of intention is what makes all the difference. It's not enough to simply think or remember. It requires sincerity and care. Thoughts focused on good, filled with love, compassion, or gratitude, have the power to generate comfort and joy in our spirits. This understanding completely changes the way we view our memories and feelings. Each thought becomes an opportunity to create an impact, to generate transformation, not only in the lives of those who have passed, but also in our own inner journey. It's an interaction that works behind the scenes of everyday reality, a connection that influences emotions, decisions, and even our mindset toward life. Chico Xavier's psychographed accounts reinforce this perspective. There are stories of people who, even without realizing it, sent thoughts of affection and attention to specific spirits, and received signals in return, a sense of presence, intuitive advice, unexpected comfort. These accounts demonstrate that spiritual communication is not limited to words or gestures, but is established through the energy and intention we place in each thought. Emmanuel explains that each gesture of remembrance or affection is a form of silent dialogue, a type of interaction that requires no time or space, but which acts profoundly and transformatively, connecting lives in invisible but very real ways. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because when we begin to understand how this communication occurs, we realize that every intention, every thought, and every emotion can become a powerful tool for transformation. It's fascinating to note that this realization leads us to reflect on our own decisions and mindset. When we choose to cultivate thoughts of love, gratitude, and respect, we are not only influencing the spiritual plane, but also shaping our own journey, creating subtle impacts that reverberate in our daily lives. In our relationships and in the choices we make, it's as if every loving memory or positive thought is a thread that connects worlds, connecting our reality to what Emmanuel calls the backstage of the spiritual plane. Revealing truths that often go unnoticed, this awareness awakens us to the importance of examining our own intentions. It's not just magic or coincidence. It's about recognizing that our thoughts have a life of their own and can generate real effects. Every emotion filled with care, every memory we evoke with respect and love, is a concrete manifestation of communication, a silent gesture that crosses dimensions and creates an impact. Chico Xavier's psychography gives us clear examples of how these interactions occur: messages that bring comfort, guidance, or simple signs of presence, revealing that spiritual life is attentive and that our thoughts, even the most intimate, can be perceived and felt. Realizing this changes the way we relate to our memories, our emotions, and our own thoughts. We begin to understand that every genuine intention is an act of love, an instrument of connection and transformation that brings us closer to a hidden truth about life and the energy that surrounds us. It's no exaggeration to say that our minds and hearts function as invisible channels, capable of creating bridges of understanding, affection, and love that span dimensions. With each sincere memory, we establish communication with the departed, without the need for words, gestures, or physical presence. And when we realize this, a sense of responsibility and awareness arises. Our inner choices, our emotions, and our thoughts can have an impact, and this impact is real, continuous, and profound. Emmanuel encourages us to develop this awareness, to cultivate sincere and positive thoughts, and to recognize that spiritual connection is dynamic, sensitive, and accessible to all who wish to approach this truth. It is an invitation to observe our own intentions, to value each loving memory, and to understand that we are embedded in an invisible network of energy and communion that transcends matter. Each example of Chico Xavier's psychography reinforces this perspective, showing that the attention we devote to thoughts, gratitude, and the memory of someone who has passed away is not an isolated act. It is part of a vast network of spiritual interaction, a silent channel that conveys love, comfort, and guidance. And as we begin to understand this reality, we realize that each sincere thought becomes a connecting thread, connecting lives, intentions, and dimensions, revealing that the energy we emit has power, impact, and relevance. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring how these energies manifest in subtle yet powerful ways, and how we can perceive signs, experiences, and revelations that show this communication is continuous, real, and transformative. It's fascinating to realize that our most intimate thoughts, when charged with pure intention, can penetrate matter and create tangible effects on the spiritual plane, shaping our perception of life, death, and the very journey we are all experiencing. Comment there? That makes sense to me. Have you ever noticed how, in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, we often forget the real impact our thoughts and intentions can have, not only on ourselves, but also on those who are no longer physically present? It seems incredible, almost impossible to measure, but Emmanuel reminds us that our energy and attention have a much greater reach than we imagine. Every positive thought, every silent prayer, every loving memory or gesture of gratitude acts like a wave that traverses dimensions, influencing the spiritual plane in subtle yet profound ways. And the most fascinating thing is that this interaction doesn't depend on words, rituals, or visible signs. It happens behind the scenes of life, in what we often call intuition, sensation, or synchronicity. Imagine that as you go about your daily tasks. You maintain a sincere concern for someone who has passed away. Even without realizing it, you are sending energy, transmitting intention, building a bridge that connects your reality to the spiritual dimension. Emmanuel explains that this energy is perceived by those observing us from the other side, and that, in a way, there is a silent exchange of feelings that transcends time and space. It's as if each loving memory is received as a message of love, bringing comfort, joy, or even inspiration to those who are no longer in the physical world. Have you ever felt this presence, or this subtle touch in unexpected moments? This perception, which seems almost magical, is the concrete manifestation of the connection between thought, intention, and energy. In today's world, when life demands quick decisions, constant change, and adaptation to countless situations, Emmanuel's message becomes even more relevant. He shows us that the awareness of our thoughts and the quality of our intentions can generate effects far beyond what we can see or measure. When we remember a loved one who has passed away, we are not alone. There is a true interaction taking place, a silent communication that transcends matter. This understanding leads us to reflect on how small acts of the heart can transform not only our emotional lives, but also influence the lives of spirits who still maintain emotional ties with us. And when we begin to pay close attention to these energy exchanges, we realize that each positive thought becomes a tool for transformation. It impacts our mindset, shapes decisions, and brings us closer to a deeper understanding of life and spirituality. Emmanuel emphasizes that it's not just a matter of feeling or imagining. It's about recognizing the power of intention and the impact it produces. Each silent prayer, each sincere memory, or each loving thought is an action that generates an effect, opening doors to revelations and discoveries that can change our perception of life, death, and the journey we are on. The beauty of this understanding lies in realizing we don't need grand rituals or outward displays to establish this communication. All that's needed is the sincerity of a thought, the purity of an intention, and the attention we pay to the feelings we harbor. Emmanuel teaches us that this awareness transforms our daily lives. A concern for someone who has passed away, a wish for the well-being of another, or simply sending positive energy are acts that carry a real and palpable impact, even if subtle. They reinforce that life is more than appearance, more than routine or materiality. It is a field of continuous energy in which our choices, thoughts, and intentions shape invisible but significant results. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because understanding the breadth of this interaction leads us to see opportunities for change, inner transformation, and connection that go far beyond what we're used to noticing. Thinking positively about someone, paying genuine attention to a memory or intention, or even cultivating thoughts of gratitude and respect, is taking responsibility for the impact our decisions and emotions produce. Every gesture, every internal reflection, every loving memory acts as a thread connecting our reality to the spiritual dimension, revealing a hidden truth about how the energy we emit shapes our own journey and influences those who silently accompany us. Realizing this completely changes our perspective on life, death, and spirituality. We begin to understand that every decision, every emotion, and every thought we harbor is not insignificant. There is a silent reciprocity happening all the time. What we emit, be it love, respect, or kindness, returns in some way, often subtle, but always impactful. This awareness challenges us to cultivate a more caring, positive, and conscious mindset, remembering that we are immersed in a universe of invisible connections, in which every sincere intention is a tool for transformation and communion. And it is precisely this perception that allows us to see details that previously went unnoticed. Signs, synchronicities, sensations of presence, or even small coincidences that carry meaning. Emmanuel guides us to understand that these signs are not random. They are manifestations that our thoughts, prayers, and intentions filled with love are being perceived, recognized, and in a way answered. It is confirmation that we are participating in a continuous energetic network, in which our sincere memories and positive emotions function as instruments of real impact, creating effects that reverberate both on the spiritual plane and in our daily lives. This understanding invites us to reflect on the importance of each thought, each memory, and each positive intention. They are not merely internal exercises of memory or emotion, but concrete actions that establish connection, convey love, and produce real effects, transforming our perception of reality and strengthening our connection with the spiritual world. Awareness of this dynamic encourages us to cultivate positive mental habits, direct our attention and energy carefully, and value the purity of our intentions. Understanding that each act of sincere remembrance creates impact, generates transformation, and establishes communication with those observing us from the other side. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring how we can recognize these manifestations, perceive subtle signs, and use our attention and energy to make each intention more conscious and powerful. When we understand that thoughts, memories, and silent prayers have power, we begin to see how our daily decisions, our emotional choices, and our care with what we mentally nourish can create significant effects, shaping our life experience and the perception of those who accompany us on the spiritual plane. This awareness reveals how life is a journey of invisible but real interactions, and how each gesture of the heart has the potential to positively impact, bringing comfort, guidance, and even transformation to ourselves and the spirits we perceive. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. Have you ever stopped to imagine the silent power your every thought can carry? That moment when you remember a loved one who has passed away, or when you mentally send a positive intention, may seem simple, almost imperceptible. But Emmanuel shows us that these actions are much more significant than we realize. He reveals that spirits perceive and feel when they are remembered with affection and respect, and that each mental gesture charged with love is capable of crossing invisible barriers, creating a real and profound connection. This understanding leads us to reflect on the power our thoughts have, on the impact our energy can have not only on ourselves but also on those watching us from the other side, waiting silently for a thread of attention or a touch of remembrance. It's amazing to realize that when we cultivate positive thoughts and sincere intentions, we are using powerful instruments of love and communion. Every loving memory, every silent prayer, every feeling of gratitude or respect becomes an invisible link, capable of touching those who have passed away and strengthening our own inner journey. Emmanuel teaches us that it's not just a matter of emotion or fantasy. There's a hidden truth in what we call thought. He reminds us that the energy we emit, whether in the form of memory, intention, or feeling, resonates, creates an impact, and establishes a network of connections that spans dimensions. Every gesture of the heart, no matter how simple it may seem, is part of an invisible dance between the material and spiritual worlds. A silent but profoundly meaningful interaction. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this realization leads us to question our own responsibility and the role that each decision, each emotional choice, and each intention plays in our lives and in the lives of those who have passed away. Imagine that every positive thought you have could touch someone who has passed away. Each intention of love or gratitude would become an invisible bridge, capable of transmitting comfort, joy, or even guidance. We're not talking about abstractions or distant concepts. We're talking about a reality that happens behind the scenes of everyday life, in small gestures and thoughts that, although seemingly simple, carry enough power to generate subtle and profound transformations. This awareness challenges us to reflect on how we relate to our own emotions and the thoughts we express daily. When we begin to understand that our thoughts can become instruments of transformation, we also realize the importance of cultivating a positive and intentional mindset. Emmanuel encourages us to direct our memories and intentions with care, attention, and sincerity, recognizing that every gesture of affection, every memory evoked with respect and love is an opportunity to generate real impact. It's fascinating to realize that, in the simplicity of a thought, lies the ability to create effects that transcend physical barriers, reach the spiritual realm, and return to us in transformative ways. Life itself gives us clues to this in small signs, meaningful coincidences, and sensations of presence that cannot be explained by reason alone, but which become comprehensible when we understand the energy our thoughts carry. Furthermore, this awareness allows us to see our own lives from a new perspective. Every memory we cherish, every positive intention we silently maintain, acts not only as an act of love for those who have passed, but also as a form of personal transformation. We are constantly shaping our journey, our decisions, and our mindset through the energy we emit. Emmanuel shows us that recognizing and valuing this interaction is a fundamental step toward understanding that spirituality is not something distant or inaccessible, but rather an intrinsic dimension of our daily experience, present in every emotional choice, in every genuine feeling we nurture, and in every memory we evoke with attention and respect. The beauty of this reality lies in the fact that we don't need grand rituals or external demonstrations to establish this communication. Purity of intention and sincerity of feeling are enough. Every gesture of the heart, every loving thought or memory of someone who has passed away becomes a channel of real and tangible connection. It's an opportunity to experience life more consciously, realizing that our internal attitudes generate visible and invisible effects which connect us to something greater and teach us about responsibility, love, and care for the energy we emit. It's a true revelation about the depth of existence, showing that life is much more than just matter and routine. It is composed of energetic interactions that traverse dimensions, transforming our perception and our experience. What if every positive thought you had could touch someone who has passed away? What difference could you make, not only in that person's life, but also in your own journey of self-discovery, balance, and transformation? Emmanuel invites us to reflect on this, to value every intention, every memory, and every gesture of affection. Understanding that the communion between the physical and spiritual worlds is real, present, and accessible to all who wish to nurture their thoughts with sincerity and love. By internalizing this truth, we begin to realize that our thoughts are much more than mere mental processes. They are tools of creation, instruments of impact, and channels of connection that allow us to actively participate in spiritual life, establishing bonds that transcend time and space, reinforcing that love, respect, and intention have a tangible and profound effect. This reflection brings us to an important point. Spiritual life is not merely observant. It responds, interacts, and manifests itself in subtle yet perceptible ways whenever we acknowledge its presence and pay genuine attention to the thoughts we emit. Each memory, each feeling of gratitude or affection acts as a connecting link, like an invisible thread that unites worlds, strengthens consciousness, and provides comfort, guidance, and continuous learning. Emmanuel shows us that the more aware we are of this dynamic, the more we can use our thoughts as instruments of transformation, not only for ourselves, but also for those who silently accompany us. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring how this awareness of energy and intention allows us to act more intentionally, noticing signs, subtle manifestations, and small revelations that confirm the reality of this connection. When we understand the true impact of our thoughts, every loving memory, every silent prayer, and every positive intention becomes an opportunity for transformation, not only on the spiritual plane, but also in our own lives, shaping decisions, attitudes, and our very mindset in a more conscious, loving, and profound way. It's an understanding that transforms our perception of life, death, and the journey we take, demonstrating that the power of thought goes far beyond what we can see or touch, and that our intentions filled with love and sincerity have the potential to create a real, lasting, and meaningful impact. Comment there. That makes sense to me, if you've made it this far. It's because this topic truly touched something deep within you, and that makes me very happy, because it shows that this message served the purpose of bringing reflection, hope, and connection. So, if it makes sense, subscribe to the channel to continue following content like this, always bringing new reflections and revelations that can transform the way you view life and spirituality. And since you made it to the end, leave the phrase "I'm with you until the end" in the comments, so I know you've walked this journey with me. Your like also makes all the difference, because it strengthens the connection we created throughout the video and helps this message reach more people who also need to hear it. And if you want to continue delving into this topic, there's a video here that complements everything we discussed. Click and follow me there.